In 1956, Gamnamugol village, which is surrounded by mountains. In the Hansu's house, which is far from the neighborhood, there has been a debate between the father and the son since earlier. Okay, you're going to choose number 3. When his father, who was watching the Jeonjuk in a dark room without a lamp on asked back. Hansu turned his face toward the floor where his mother and wife were sitting and answered with an upset look as if they were asking him to listen. Well, father, stop saying frustrating things. Elections should be based on characterism to go somewhere with money. Then, no matter how smart a person is, he or she can't even be a member of the National Assembly. However, shouldn't a person know how to protect the morality of loyalty and pay it back if he or she has received someone else's favor? Phew! Why do you think it's so arrogant to get a pair of rubber shoes? It's useless. You can get everything you need, eat everything, and take a picture of the person you want to take a picture of. Do you know who's watching? Even if you're not saying that. When you came back from the military, people couldn't use it, so Hansu's father thought about what the class president said in the morning, while giving him rubber shoes. Inspiration. This is trivial, but please accept it. And number 2, okay? Among the people running for the National Assembly in our district, Han Sang-lo is the most outstanding person. That must be nice. Must be money. But you have to pick such a person, so you can get at least a rice bowl next time. The rubber shoes were also given by him to bring you inspiration. Since we are my wife and son, there's no problem with the 4 votes, right? I look forward to your kind cooperation. And you have to make sure other people don't notice that you received this. Voting starts at 7 a.m. tomorrow. While he took out black male rubber shoes from the waistbands. It was so unexpected that I refused several times, but I accepted it because I had to recommend it. In fact, it couldn't help but be a grateful gift. Even when I brought it into the room, I talked to my wife or daughter-in-law in great pride. It was a moment when I felt a kind of recognition from the fresh feeling and the smell of rubber permeating my nose. Even so, the rubber shoes I wear now have uneven sides. So I cut my soles by being stabbed by a fly while doing grass trees in a ditch in front of the village a few days ago, with bare feet or bitter feet to bury soil on my feet. Even if I had received something more valuable than rubber shoes at this time, I would not have been able to stop being grateful. After my son opposed Han, I thought maybe it was because the rubber shoes were not in place, but first of all, the shoes didn't fit Hansu's feet, and I was worried that it wouldn't happen. The father, who tried to lie on his side while determining inside, said, "Did you have dinner?" Duck Ho, who lives in the same donri, shouted loudly and came in, so he changed his posture again. Yeah, did you drink a lot of gongsul at the market today? Before his father's words were over, Diako came to his side and sat down. I breathed out. The smell of sour alcohol hit me. Don't drink a lot. Among them, it would be okay to have this kind of election only once a month. It's a little quiet here, but the village is all over my Yeonsogun. The microphones are vibrating here and there, and they're drinking alcohol here and there. I can drink as much as I want if I go into a place where the basin is attached and people are buzzing. From my Yeonso to Gamnamugol, there are 5 places like that. Anyway, I walked around the round trip 50 gil without knowing that my legs hurt. I wish this would happen only once a month for those who like to drink like us. After laughing very pleasantly and tilting back, he hinted at it this time. But out of all the candidates, number 4 is the best. What's his name? Hansu father asked. It's Park Hyung-gil, who used to be the governor of the country. Well, yeah. At this time, Hansu, who was silent, opened his mouth. More than anything, baby, because the best in terms of personality and smartness. It's just that he lacks propaganda power because he doesn't have enough. It's a person. There's no more. These days, there are people who are trying to get votes with financial power, or who are trying to be elected by feeding Macchiali, but that's all wrong. First, is money enough? You're all wrong. Elections should be done in a personal way. Duck Ho was in an awkward position because Hansu's enthusiasm seemed to attack him, who was drinking alcohol. I put my hand in my pocket and found a cigarette. The probative power of the crooked celluloid is at the end of the hand looking for cigarettes. I felt my heart pleased at the moment. It was 10 days ago. Dioko had a simple business to do, so he went out to the Myeonso neighborhood. I was about to come back from work, but there was someone calling me from behind. So I looked back and I had some acquaintances with him before. Yo Diaco, it's been a while. How can you not see him like that? While saying something, he suddenly chatted and asked the wrong questions after this and that story. Do you have a resident card? Why? No, I was just asking. Duck Ho showed off his Du Minjung, which he had put in a wrap without mouthing. The friend who was looking into it was surprised and screamed. Isn't this your old ID card? It's been more than half a year since your ID was updated. Do you still carry this? That could have been a big trouble. Do you have a picture? I said I didn't have one, and he suddenly took Duck Ho to the only photo studio in Mayon. The friend explained that Diaco, who was puzzled because he didn't know English, needed a picture to return his resident card and sat him in a chair. The photographer with innocent eyes looks into the camera and takes a picture. Then the friend standing behind suddenly shouted, Duco, smile so much. The moment I thought Duck Ho smiled, I laughed, click, and smiled. The friend looked at the photographer, telling Duck Ho not to worry about money. 5 days after putting the picture, the friend gave Duck Ho 3 proofs of stiff paper. Moreover, I put it in a horned pack. At other times, Duck Ho admired himself several times, saying, It is so unknown that such a difficult thing happened in 5 days. After giving Jeongnam, the friend spread 5 fingers to Diaco this time. You know number 5, right? I really ask of you. Actually, Park Duman is the best person. Diaco also nodded. And Diaco. A few days later, Diaco often entered the Myeonso neighborhood, avoiding the senses of the Gamnamugol people, and today he puts the towels he gave me. After getting a son, he mainly distributed it to local wives. In fact, I handed Han-su's wife a towel this morning. Wife Han made her mother-in-law, who was dozing off while her husband was talking enthusiastically, leaned against the wind wall and entered her room. My husband told me to take number 3 before that, and my father-in-law said that I had to take number 2 as my father-in-law did. I would do that until this morning. However, after receiving a towel unexpectedly today, I didn't know what to do. While giving a towel, Duck Ho clearly showed his 5 fingers to ask for number 5, who was going to the election tomorrow. After breakfast, Diaco, who was pretending to be grazing by a cow over there, is waiting for him to come closer. He smiled and gave him a white towel folded in 4 layers. Also, I'll pick number 5 for my mother. What? I turned around with 5 golds in my mouth. My husband or father couldn't. He would have tried to hold himself and his mother-in-law because he didn't think she would listen well. I haven't talked about receiving towels from anyone yet. But I wanted to discuss this with my mother or husband tonight. I didn't know how good such a gift was when I had only been using stiff pillows. If I were greedy, I would like to use it alone secretly, but I couldn't help but feel uneasy because I thought Duck Ho would talk to me later. The next day, the people of Gamnamugol went out to vote for a Myeon clinic, from morning, to a village over 10 miles long. At the entrance of the village, the speaker was erased from the Jurgai, stood in front, and the young man with the microphone was following, shouting, What is it? Everyone was changing into outing clothes and rushing around Namsan Mountain to get into the new road. Some people carried a hoe because the field was on that road. Han-su's mother went to vote at first because she had a lot of things to open up at home, but she reluctantly followed her son because he insisted. Election is not like that, and continued to rush to inspire him. Even after following him, he only left the house to the children, so he was worried about the road. Han-su urged his wife to walk on her way, kicking his tongue 10 more times inside that the old people were always no different. Han-su's wife diligently chased her husband's foot roots with a pounding heart, thinking about whether she was number 2, 3, or 5. As soon as Han-su's father went on the road wearing the rubber shoes, he was puzzled for a moment by the unexpected fact. Inspiration Jexiong and Inspiration Dongxin also wore the rubber shoes. Then it was good to think that the class president was being generous to him, and in fact, he gave the same to those inspirations. But soon, I recalled that it was that and recognition was recognition. However, I thought that I could not violate human principles. Rather, I was curious about the hard work of giving charity to many people. However, his son finally insisted on taking number 2 until the morning. The more I think about my son who doesn't follow his father, and young people who don't know how to behave, the more my father said. Long behind Han-su's family, Mutko was smiling and following the villagers excitedly.